I'm here today to change a perception of Visa in your eyes. Because until now, until recently, we have been talking to you about card business. And today, going to talk to you about an account-to-account. So probably some of you wondered when they see the title of the presentation, why is Visa going to talk to us about account-to-account? Isn't that something which Visa is competing against? And I hope by the end of this presentation, by the end of these 15 minutes, you will understand a little bit better why I'm here today, how Visa is changing, and how hopefully your perception of Visa should be changing as well. I'm skipping the part where I wanted to talk about, how our industry have changed. What is today different? How do we pay today, and how we were paying, 5 years ago? I think a couple of things which I need to highlight here is that this year we have announced as a Visa quite a lot of changes. What do we do and where do we go? One I will focus on in a couple of minutes. The other things are actually addressing areas like e-commerce and our announcement around click to pay, so making guest checkout actually a better experience for everybody. This is something which Visa is putting a lot of effort on, and you will see a lot of happening in Romania in upcoming months actually as well. We have announced a part where we already started to enter the account-to-account space, and that's in the fraud space. We said we have a lot to offer when it comes to preventing fraud in card business, and we believe we can transfer this to actually account-to-account space. And I will touch on that a little bit later. And we also introduce a tap to everything, which pretty much means, improving the UX when you are trying to sometimes enroll the card, send money, etc. So there is a lot more what Visa is currently focusing on, but probably the number one topic is definitely connected to account-to-account. So while you're reading it, and again, I will make it shorter than usual as well, let me tell you a short story. In last 20, 30 years, we have made as a sector, as a business, a lot of progress. We moved to chip, we moved to contactless, we moved to tokenization. But the change which happened in the last 5 years is actually much more significant than that. We started to doing stuff around open banking. We purchased a company called Think a few years ago, and we have been talking to many of you actually about that. We actually started with this account-to-account protect, prevent, kind of supporting anti-fraud movement in the account-to-account business. We already launched that capability in the UK, in the market, and we have seen up to 50% decrease in fraud. So when do we deploy our capabilities from the card industry into the account-to-account industry, we can really make a difference. So this is kind of a first hint, where do we believe we really can add value, even we are actually not naturally there in that part. So what have been happening actually when it comes to the account-to-account? Here you see actually the size of the business we are referring to. And here we are focusing mainly on the consumer to retail, consumer to merchant volumes. So see, cards are not doing bad, but account-to-account is doing even better. Where in some markets across the globe, we are a little bit slowing down when it comes to the card numbers increasing, meaning transaction penetration, because in many markets, mainly in Western Europe, we have already reached a very high penetration. So where do we go next, actually, from there? While the account-to-account in many European and global, actually, markets is just picking up with different use cases, with accelerating through the digital, and we believe that we can actually transfer our capability and our knowledge into that space, and let me show you why we think actually this is the case. Trying to move forward, sorry. So what have happened, in last decade, a lot of companies have emerged in the account-to-account space. Most of them focusing on open banking business, but also other areas of actually expertise. But what have happened is that we have a certain environment we are working in. And this is an environment which you know very well. We have a consumer, we have the bank which is originating the transaction, and eventually the bank which is receiving the transactions. But what we also have is that there is a lot of inefficiencies in the overall system. So when it comes to this, there is an inconsistent UX across the markets and across Europe. So depending who is providing the service, the UX is always different. What else we see? We see that actually there is limited consumer protection. So when you are sending a transaction, paying a bill or anything else, you know that the liability, a consumer protection which is there, is today very limited. And I'm comparing it to cards. So how do we get actually to the next level? There is hundreds of APIs which banks need to connect to. So again, it's the effort which is needed to get to the place where we need to be. There are often no transaction standards. So there are different standardization, different markets, and even within the markets. There is a lack of predictability about the economic model and about how actually all will work out. Usually on the market level, I'm not even talking European level. And today we don't have time to get into digital euro and other stuff which partly relates to it, but we probably all imagine slightly different future when it comes to this. And then there is no centralized dispute platform. So if there is a dispute happening, and some of you probably went through a dispute on the in the account-to-account space, there is no standardization, there is no guarantee, there is multiple challenges, and it works differently again across the market, across the entities, and across Europe. And this is actually exactly where we believe we can, as a Visa, start adding actually a value. There is a fraud challenge, which we all know about, maybe not talk about it that often, but there is a significant fraud challenge when it comes to this. Just in UK alone, this is 460 million pounds every year actually happening, and it's increasing. Even that we all focus on that and we are saying it's a priority, it's the future, the fraud happening in that space is actually decreasing year on year. And we are to a certain extent leaving the consumer to kind of deal with that. He needs to do whatever he can. We are trying to warn him what is happening and how to avoid that. Again, I don't want to spend time today here comparing it to card business, but there are some learnings which we have made, over the last 70 years when it comes to actually card business, and we believe that there is a good learning which we can transfer into the account-to-account space. And that's why Visa in September this year, actually for the first time, introduced that we will be stepping into the account-to-account space. Because we believe that we can actually bring our brand, our infrastructure, and our rules, which will help to unify this business actually going forward. And we want to make sure that actually we keep the system open at the same time. So it's not about Visa coming and saying, now everything will be processed through Visa. We are saying there are already infrastructure in place. What we are actually suggesting, we are plugging an operating system which will help to actually unify it, which will still respect the fact that transaction flow in a certain way, and they are, transfer from bank A to B. There are still operators, there are central banks, there are other entities, operating in that system. But because of those challenges which I have shown you a moment ago, we believe that this can actually bring a significant impact on the overall account-to-account business and bring actually a more standardization to it. So what we are actually suggesting, we are saying there are 5 aspects which we would like to help with. The first one is around setting rules and protection in the overall business. So how can we make it more consumer-oriented and protect also more the consumers which are in the system. How can we actually standardize the transaction so they can be, going forward, interoperable? How can we make the APIs actually specified in a very clear way and unified across actually the markets to start with, and of course going forward also outside of that? How can we provide a central platform for disputes? So for consumer at the end is very easy, as well as for the bank, to actually plug in into something which is already existing and just utilize something which already 16,000 banks across the globe already have a connection to. So a dispute system in Visa world called vRoll, but that's, I would say, a secondary to the discussion today. And then how can we make sure that it is secure and the fraud actually in this space is limited? As I used the example for a moment ago for the UK market, we already see a significant benefit and improvement which we can do. So more than 50% improvement when it comes to this is a significant. And if we actually combine the account-to-account data with a card data, we can increase it again even more. So it's about using our data, our understanding, our knowledge, and applying it on the industry, which is currently going to boom in the upcoming years. Let me show you a little of an example so you can imagine when we talk about standardization. And this is an example which is from the, let's say, recurring business. And again, each market in Europe is slightly different. In some markets, the recurring business on current account is already out there. In some markets, it is very low. Most of the time, it's used card on file or other ways of paying your bills, which are recurring, actually, bills. So this is a simple example. You need to have a subscription for whatever you can imagine behind the kind of a gold membership subscription. And you need to pay a certain amount monthly. Today, the solution for that is a card on file. There is nothing wrong about the solution, don't get me wrong, it's a perfect solution. But still, it's a solution which might not fit everybody's needs, which might not fit everybody's expectation. Doesn't matter if you are a consumer, merchant, or a bank, you might have a different ambition when it comes to this. But what your ambition is definitely it's a transparent, it's easy to use, it's an interoperable solution, and you are protected actually when this is happening. So when it comes to this, you agree to certain terms. You say, okay, here is the recurring payment which I have, here are the parameters which I can actually set. Then you are actually talking about the payment initiation request. So you are actually connecting to a bank, which is making this possible. And of course, you need to validate yourselves, ideally through a biometric. In this case, we are using Visa Passkey, the FIDO standard, which we have for actually authenticating. So far, the UX is very slick and actually affluent. And then, of course, there is the money at the end. But what actually happens on the back of that, which we believe we can support to provide? There are certain things which needs to happen. There needs to be a check actually happening, checking, the consumers, confirming the permission and everything, which is happening in the background for the consumer invisible, but for banks and for our industry, very important. There is a validity of the beneficiary. Are we checking certain registries? Are we, confirming the accounts? Again, happening in the background on the rails which are already existing. We are confirming also the use case. So is this actually verified? Is it a certain type of transaction? Does the type of transaction include what is actually needed in that type of the transaction? And of course, there is a fraud scoring. So today, I'm not saying that there doesn't exist in the account-to-account business, but definitely it's a space which has a lot of space for improvement. And again, believe that we can actually pitch into it even more. So at the end, it's a successful transaction, which actually have all those aspects which I just went through, and all the back-end kind of checks, mandates, which are happening. just move forward so we manage on time. So of course, you want to also be able to change and check that what you have said and what you have agreed with your bank actually is something which you can then work with. So a portfolio management, management itself. So as you today, you can actually dispute a transaction, you can cancel a certain subscription. You need to have a certain slick UX, which will also work in the account-to-account environment. And again, this is what we are offering and this is what we are bringing into the game. So there is an interoperability and there is a clear consumer in the driving seat to make sure actually they can control it and they can make sure that they can cancel it and actually dispute it anytime. So what we are pretty much saying is that the system will be open for every Visa member bank. So you can actually be a part of it. You know, of course, you still need to provide a certain certification. So if we are talking open banking platform, this is a must to make sure that the system is secure and working well. And then you also have the businesses, which again, it needs to be all eligible and needs to be able to plug in into it. And we need to be able to verify that they are legitimate businesses. So that's what the openness of the network, which we believe needs to work on, and we need to actually support that going forward. So actually we can accelerate also the development when it comes to the account-to-account. So to summarize, what we are bringing is actually a consumer protection to an account-to-account payment. So it's the infrastructure which we are saying an extra layer, if you want, which we build on the existing infrastructure. So it's not about changing the way how account-to-account operate. It's about giving an additional layers which will make it more efficient and more secure. We are in a progressive stage when it comes to this with the UK market. We are in initial stage when it comes to some of the Nordics market when it comes to this. And we are currently in the stage that we are exploring this opportunity also across Europe. It is very new thing to Visa. And I was joking with my colleagues before I came here from Visa. I was saying, you know, it's still so new for Visa that even a Visa people comes here to listen what is it we are actually doing. So don't think that this is something which will happen overnight. Our ambition is that in FY25, in 2025, we will be launching the UK market. We will follow in the following year with the Nordics market. And then around that time, we would like to bring other European markets on board as well. Of course, who will buy into this, who will see the benefit, and who will want to cooperate with us. So I think my call to action actually for today is come talk to us if you find this interesting. Come talk to us about the use cases which you see and maybe which are relevant for a Romanian market or any other European market you are actually from. It will be a continuous discussion which we will have, but we strongly believe that we can move our capabilities and actually deploy them in the account-to-account space. So thank you very much for listening. And I look forward to further discussion.
Awesome. We have one question first.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. The UK example that you showed, that uses what we call variable recurring payments, VRP, which is currently non-existent, but is going to be in a year's time or something. But that's a UK-specific standard.
Yes.
You know, in Australia, for example, it's implemented in a completely different way. And there is no European standard for that at the moment. So what are your feelings about how, I mean, it's a great product that you're presenting, but what are your feelings about how quickly it can actually deploy into the marketplace? Because there is a real lack of standardization.
And I 100% agree.
I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean
yeah, no. And I 100% agree with you. That's where I said at the end of the presentation that this will take a while. And also we need to look at, you know, UK being outside of now European Union, you know, one of the reasons why we are looking at some Nordics market is also because they sit outside. And we are looking very clear now in quite a detail about some of the European markets. we believe that once we crack a couple of the markets, that can serve as a learning to actually move faster. And we are not looking just at the Europe. This product originated from Europe, which is not always the case for Visa, you know it. Usually we bring global products to Europe. This actually originated, but the same need we have in South America, we have in Asia, and each of the market will require something slightly different. So it's not about one fits all. It's not like a click to pay where we say it's an interoperable standard which we deploy in every market, and you will be paying with your Visa cards same way in Romania as you will be in the US. In here we are saying we need to look at the markets, we need to look at the use cases. At the end we probably will have, I hope not 220, but maybe 5 of them, and we will connect them together. So it is a long journey we are ahead. It is a new industry which we are embarking on, so it will take few years. Probably if I'm standing here or my colleague is standing here next year, he will be able to brief you on how we made the progress, what is the learning from the UK, and how we can more deploy it. But between now and then, we need to hear from you what you think. What are your challenges, and even what are your worries? Because probably some of you are wondering, is it a good thing that Visa is stepping into that space? Yes, they can probably help with bits and pieces, but there are some pros and cons to that. So we are very eager to hear from you, what do you think and how we can progress.
Fran, this is just for my own understanding, is an initiative that the bank has to do, or because I cannot, me as a consumer, inside my bank or ask my bank to use that product, right? It's the
Correct.
bank who has to be on board first.
It's starting from the bank, of course, but it's not just about the bank, it's about the ecosystem.
Okay.
We already have ecosystem set up to a certain extent, so that's why we believe this will be easier for everybody to do it like this than starting from the scratch. But yes, it starts from the bank, and by certain time, it will get to the consumer, and hopefully they will see a standardized approach, so they might actually explore even more with account to account that they are already doing.
Who are the bankers in the room here? Bankers in the room?
They are too shy to put a hand up.
There is one banker in the room? Who's everybody else? Why are you here? So let me get the feedback from a banker. Can I ask your feedback, please? What do you think about it? Are you interested? And
hello, I'm from Credit Europe Bank. My name is Antar. Thank you for the presentation. It seems interesting, and I was discussing with my colleagues when I watched your presentation that Visa is stepping in the account-to-account payments field. I think it might bring value to the payments ecosystem, but we need to understand more. It's just, I see it as a teaser. But my first impression is, it's good. I mean, it's a very smart move. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I agree, it's a teaser. I couldn't do more in this audience. But
that's my fault.
We are happy to follow up with a bigger teaser with more details.
So you can have lunch in 40 minutes together to go beyond the teaser. Thank you so much. Thank you to Fran, guys.
Thank you.
Big applause to Visa.